Welcome to All Power to the Developing, a podcast of the Eastside Institute, where social justice, human development, and community building come together. This is where you will meet activists, artists, teachers, scholars, helpers, and healers who are bringing creativity, hope, and possibility to individuals and communities all over the world. Welcome everyone to All Power to the Developing. This is your host, Desiree Wandin, Des for short, and I'm so happy for you guys to all be here on All Power to Developing. We have a very, very special episode for you. I hope everyone has been doing well, and I hope all our listeners out there are having an amazing summer thus far. But let's get on to our guest for today. Our guest today is the President and CEO of the Center for Community Progress, the only national nonprofit dedicated to transforming vacant and abandoned properties into spaces for growth, connection, and possibility. With over 25 years of experience in community revitalization, affordable housing, and public service, our guest brings a deep commitment to creating environments where people can come together to build and perform new futures. Her journey began in Brooklyn, New York, where she saw firsthand the harm and the potential of neglected spaces. And she has carried that passion into every aspect of her work. As the first Afro-Caribbean, Haitian-American, elected to the Glenarden City Council in Maryland, she's a powerful advocate for equitable land use, marginalized communities, and wealth equity. Welcoming to All Power to the Developing, Kathleen Guillaume-Delemar. Hey, Kathleen, how's everything? Welcome to All Power to the Developing.
Hi, Des. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so honored.
Yes. How's everything on your end, firstly?
You know, every time I get an opportunity to wake up and see the earth and the people walking on it, I claim it as a good day.
Yes, right?
Yes,
Every day that
yes,
there's life.
yes.
And speaking of life, your work breathes so much life into people, into spaces, into futures, as I just said in the intro. Can we start there? Can we talk about the Center for Community Progress, what it is, the work, the mission statement, what it entails, and kind of give me a little bit of a background of what led you to working with the Center for Community Progress, and now you're the president and CEO.
My goodness, how much time do we have? So as an organization that was founded in the aftermath of the 2008-2009 mortgage foreclosure crisis, we as an organization have seen the state of vacancy, abandonment, and disrepair evolve over the course of the last 15 years. And so the organization, as you eloquently stated, we are the only national nonprofit that is dedicated to fixing the systems that led or lead to widespread vacant, abandoned, and deteriorated properties. So what that means is we're not just looking at the symptoms, we're also looking at the root causes of the organization. That has been something that has been in our DNA from our inception. We were founded in Flint, Michigan, which is where we are still headquartered. But I work out of the national office, which is located in DC, in Washington, DC, because we want to make sure that we keep a pulse on what's happening on the federal legislative side. Why? Because we know that policy, unjust policies, if you ask me, and if you ask any of my colleagues, is at the root, or is definitely one of the root causes of systemic vacancy. So as an organization, we have 4 offices. I already mentioned 2, one in Flint, Michigan, one in Washington, D.C., one in Chicago, and another one in Georgia. And the one in Atlanta, Georgia specifically is our hub, as I'd say, for our work in the southern region, because we are seeing more and more, not just because of how the country is made up, but also do a lot to climate change. A lot of things happening in the South that requires our assistance. Now, the work that we do runs gamuts, right? So we actually provide technical assistance. We work a lot, with local and policy makers and community leaders because we again want to change and reform unjust policies that are in place, whether it's draconian, as I call it draconian policies or systems such as the property tax system or the code in I want to change it to code encouragement or code compliance, but code enforcement, they call it code enforcement systems, which is so draconian to me. So we provide a lot of technical assistance and try to show people how things can be different. We also provide education and engagement opportunities where we work with grassroots leaders to actually see what they envision because we are unapologetic when it comes to centering justice and community-centered work. That's also something that we do not apologize about. Or apologize for, excuse me. And lastly, like I stated in the very beginning, we are really big when it comes to policy. We want to make sure that we are paying attention to what's happening, to what we can recommend to the field so they can actually do better work. And we want to make sure that the tools that are around we can actually showcase and tell people about it. So one of the many tools when it comes to systemic vacancy that a lot of people have known us for, which is but land banks and land banking, there's creative placemaking, there's vacant land stewardship, and, again, just tackling the draconian systems I hate to say it, but that's what I call it. Now, that's community progress. I tried to say it in 2 minutes. I think I passed a little bit of that. Now, what drew me to this work, I would say, Des, is I am the daughter of a disinvested community. I am first generation Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latina, Haitian-American. I wear it on my sleeve and I don't apologize for it. And one of the many things that I saw and in your introduction of who I am, not who I was, is being a daughter of a disinvested community located in such a big city such as New York, in Brooklyn and Flatbush. I was unfortunately around during the height of the crack epidemic. And I was able to see firsthand the impact that it had in and on communities like mine. I was able to see the vacant lots that I lived by and saw the drug dealers there, saw the drug addicts there, saw the trash there, saw my abuser there because I did have, unfortunately, I was raised in a hostile environment with my mother's insignificant other. And when he wasn't at home terrorizing us, he found a safe haven in the vacant lots with the other folks there. But what I also got to see was the power of people, of community-centered activism, because I got to see the people in my neighborhood see the vacant lots for more than what they were and they saw the potential of it once they got rid of the toxicity that was there. And so they reclaimed those vacant lots. And now those same vacant lots that held trauma for me and I'm sure, for my neighbors are now places of hope. One is Uma Park in Brooklyn, New York, and the other one is an affordable, dignified housing dwelling for people who just thrive to just have decent housing. So that's me in a nutshell, as far as why I do the work and how I got to Center for Community Progress. Why not be a Center for Community Progress?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for all of that. I remember in our pre-conversation when we were speaking, you spoke a lot about the lots, and it almost made me travel down memory lane of growing up and seeing, just remembering all the lots just that I used to see, parking lots, different lots, and walk past them. And all these years later to see what they've become, whether it's for the community or if it's for profit. But just to see what it's become is like to show you these things don't necessarily have to stay this way. Vacant lots often symbolize loss and neglect. And I know you just shared one example with Uma Park. Well, how have you seen besides that, how have you seen communities reclaim these spaces in ways to foster growth or connection or new forms of a collective identity? I think
Sure.
the one you just shared is a great example, but have there been others? Like, how have you seen communities do this?
Oh, absolutely. And I will say that one of the greatest pride and joys to my life is knowing that I lead an organization that makes it possible for people who have aspirations for their communities to actually see those aspirations come to life, to actually see the Uma Parks come to life. So I remember, oh my goodness, it had to be around 2020, 2021. And I had the honor of working with a community in Dayton, Ohio. And Dayton, Ohio, you want to talk about, it's not even a food desert, it's food apartheid. And it's a certain area, I believe it's the West Side. And when I tell you the community members, the city, the land bank facilities or organizations, I mean, everybody came together. And there was this vacant lot that was there that they turned into a food co-op. And if your listeners are listening, look up Gem City Markets, where there's now this co op for food, and every stakeholder is from the community themselves. So now they have access to food, but they also see the return coming back into their communities. So that's one. The other one is an organization, I hope I say it correctly, Barrio Alegra in Reading, Pennsylvania. The work that they do there is phenomenal as to how they change the various communities in Pennsylvania, their community themselves. But what I've been able to just celebrate is seeing how vacant land stewardship is very real, where you can have a place where it's just vacant one day, but then it's transformed into a community garden with murals and a place for the artists to actually feel seen and the community's values to to be made visible to everyone, whether you're driving by or walking by. And to also just see that the hope that people who live in the community have when they feel disvalued or undervalued, they are actually being represented by what's around them. So whether it's seeing a community garden come to life, whether it's seeing stormwater mitigation, where there are some places where there's flooding and you need to actually have some type of stormwater mitigation put in place, whether it's a park, like I mentioned, or whether it's affordable housing being built, dignified affordable housing. Let me be very clear, dignified affordable housing being built. So that's what I've seen. But if I were to go with the first one that touched me separate from my personal experience, I would definitely go with Gem City Markets in Dayton, Ohio. Phenomenal.
Yeah, wow. Definitely listeners look those up. Definitely gonna check those out because it seems like so much hard work and community went
Yeah.
behind those things. What are some of those factors in the community? I think we're speaking about it, but even in my mind as I'm envisioning it, it seems like a lot of work and a lot of different people coming through and also a lot of resiliency, right? Coming from some of these
Mm-hmm.
communities, unfortunately, that are lacking resources or you said worse than a food desert, food apartheid. So I can't even imagine that because I've been to food deserts and that's already impactful as it
Yeah.
is. So what are some of the things from the community that like if you were to go to a brand new community of people that maybe were in this same situation, what would be some of those tools? Are there exercises? Are there games that people play to get closer connected to each other? Are there exercises where people learn about each other's struggles? Or does the community come together to say, we want this, we don't want that, we want this? Are there tools, are there different things that the community is engaging in as an activity before they embark on some of these greater challenges?
That is a phenomenal question. Not to discount the other questions that you asked weren't phenomenal, but this brings me to just responding yes, 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 right? One of the things that I am so proud of as far as our efforts are concerned is we have a community revitalization fellowship program. And what that entails is we actually get community leaders from residents to organizations to come together from a particular community. So let's just say we're looking at South Bronx circa 1970, 1980s. Like, we know how that, how urban renewal devastated the communities, right? So you have a lot of people coming from different communities. Recently, there was a cohort from Rochester, and there's a cohort from Memphis, Tennessee, and another cohort from Lafayette, Louisiana, all that have been impacted by systemic vacancy. And all of these leaders are coming together to brainstorm ideas, to talk about what's happening in their communities, and actually providing learning exchanges, right? So these three communities are coming together and they're learning from each other what's worked over there and what's worked over here. Now, what's also powerful about this is we are actually not just listening to what each community members are saying and what they envision for their communities, because each community is different as far as what they want for their own community, but we are also presenting them with the strategies to make it happen. We want to make sure that, number one, everything is always equitable. Right? We want to make sure that everybody gets a piece of what's happening, but we also want to make sure that if it's community centered, it has to be integrated also into what neighborhood revitalization plans the local government wants. So what we also do as part of our strategy with meeting with the community leaders is we get local policymakers involved and we educate the community leaders themselves, the grassroots leaders, the residents themselves, to actually know how to advocate for themselves, to actually know here are some types of reforms that you can go for. Here's how we can actually bring community legislators to the table and you both can co-create this particular opportunity. I keep speaking about Oma Park, but I'll never forget going to Oma Park recently and seeing, I knew that it was my neighbors that started everything, but when you see the dedication plaque, it's so beautiful to see their names, but to also see the name of Una Clark, who was the council person. I think she was a council person or definitely legislator at the time who played a part. So we definitely want to make sure that all these things are done. So the tools that you mentioned as far as charrettes and things of that nature, yes, we do all those things. We do walking tours. We walk through the community. We see what's lacking and what's not lacking for them. We don't define that. They define it and we assist.
Nice. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this short message on All Power to Developing. And we're going to continue to go on this journey, this lovely journey for Kat for short, and learn a lot more about her work and what's led her down this amazing path. This is Desiree Wandin, All Power to Developing. We'll be back after this short message.
Hi, I'm Melissa Meyer, Associate Director of the Eastside Institute. Welcome to All Power to the Developing. I hope you're enjoying today's conversation. In each episode, we introduce you to some amazing performance activists, play revolutionaries, and developmentalists from around the world who talk to us about their creative grassroots efforts to build a better world. If you like what you hear, please follow and share the series. You can find us on Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. We'd love to hear your comments and ideas. Like everything at the Institute, the growth of All Power to the Developing depends upon the people who create it and benefit from it. We hope you're one of them. Thanks for your support, and now back to our conversation.
We are back on All Power to the Developing. Yes. The first part has been amazing. I hope the listeners really enjoyed the first part before the commercial break. A lot of the work that we do at the Eastside Institute speaks to the power of people creating with each other. It's a lot of our work here. What have been some of the key creations in your life? I mean, you've given us some examples, but what have been some of the key creations in your life, both personal, professional, that helped you grow and develop alongside others?
Wow. That is a deep, deep, deep question. I could speak to my compassionate revolutionary side. That's what I consider myself. I consider myself in all the work that I do to be an unapologetic thorn on society's side. And so one of the main things that I did for a while was, and I have to admit, it was mixed with a bit of passion and anger. Being first generation Haitian American, growing up in New York, where, and dare I say America itself, where we were, or I was, my people were considered the others. I just naturally wanted to fight for injustices. I saw my mother protest going across the Brooklyn Bridge in the 90s to fight against what the American government had stated about Haitians and AIDS. And I saw how society treated poor people. And I just had a passion, a yearning that when I would leave to go to school, I would be probably the next head of the NAACP or the next head of, some type of organization, because I would always be protesting, and I would do it I felt like I was in it alone. And it wasn't until I started going down the path of community development. As a proud graduate of Howard University, one of the things that I had to do was some pre-practicum work and then some practicum work, where I worked for the Equal Rights Center, and I saw people who didn't look like me. I saw people who were not Haitian, and I saw people who were just as angry as I was, for the injustices that my people were facing, and other people who looked like me were facing, and other people who grew up poor were facing, and fighting against that form of discrimination. And that was my first aha moment, that we can actually do more together than apart. And so what I started to do was I started to align myself and open up myself more to actually partnering with people who I feel were mission aligned. Before, I didn't look at mission aligned people. I just looked at my people, and that's it. Like, it's my people, and you don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand what we're going through. But there's a particular power that comes with people who are mission aligned and who share the same commitment to justice as you do, that makes life worthwhile. And as angry as you may feel in the moment when you are fighting for a certain injustice, it makes it so much more thrilling to know that you are not alone in this work. So when I can think of opportunities where, during the Equal Rights Center, where I saw people who didn't look like me I was a tester, and we were trying to discover who was discriminating against Black renters. And I saw the person who was speaking, I felt louder than me, was a person who was a white man, and I'm a Black woman. That spoke volumes to me. But then also in the work that I do right now, I have to say that, and I've been saying it for the past few weeks. After seeing doing some eye-opening work recently in Montana, we do, we provide as an organization technical solutions to human problems. And what I realized in collaborating and in bringing hope and change that I can speak proudly to is I have a lot of technical people in my life, a lot of technical people in my work space. They're brilliant, but I also have that human centered element and people who come from that lived experience background. And when you put us together, sky's the limit. And that's how we're able to enact change in a lot of the communities that I've already mentioned and some that I haven't yet mentioned, because they actually see both sides of the coin and they actually see that it's not just Kat at the table, there are many faces at the table.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing because it's true. Like you are in one box because obviously you were fighting for the rights of your people and very impacted by what was going on with your community, your people. But then you also saw there's others that could lend a voice to that impact and then open the lens a little bit more. It makes me think of the Eastside Institute, which is basically a conglomerate of many marginalized communities
Yes.
that came together to make their voice stronger. So I really think that's a major learning lesson to I think the audience and others out there.
Yeah, and again, we sometimes have to get out of our own way to enact change, right? Where there are people, when I ran for office, I just knew when I ran for public office, I was already doing the work at Center for Community Progress. I wasn't the president and CEO at the time, but I started seeing how ordinary people, the community revitalization fellowship fellows were so committed to their work. They were just so committed to making their community a better place. And then I started seeing other programs that we had, such as the Vacant Property Leadership Institute, where it was just a collaboration of local policymakers, organizations, and community leaders all coming together again with different learning exchanges, but to enact ways to tackle systemic vacancy, right? And I said to myself, I said, so here it is. I'm working at this organization and I believe I was a director at the time and I'm learning from the organization. So I now, as someone who was at home, I would go, after I turned my virtual clock off and I am looking at city council meetings and county council meetings. And I'm like, I'm not okay with this. And if I am working at a place where I see everyday people and I see another program where everyday people and local policymakers are coming together, I need to do that. I need to become a local policymaker myself. And in being a local policymaker, I had to work across the aisle. I had to actually go and partner with my colleagues, some who people deemed problematic. I got along with everyone. And we were able to create the most the most equitable legislation in this, dare I say, in the city of Glenarden's history, where we created the I authored the Intergenerational Poverty Relief Fund. I also co-sponsored the creation of a park, a children's park, working across the aisle, people who just butted heads, but actually when it came down to something being mission aligned, it's different from who you like or who you don't like. It's about, are we aligned here with this? And then that's where you see growth. So yeah, I just had to say that part too, because that's a deep question.
Yeah, thank you so much for adding that. Man, I got so many more. But we're gonna wrap it up soon. We're living in a world right now, but not too far from different times. But in this time, some of the same things are existing: conflict, polarization, inequality. From your perspective, how can communities come together to be more playful and developmental and build power and possibility in the midst of so much division? I think you spoke about it in different incarnations earlier, but do you have any more to give there? I mean, we're living in such a challenging time of many things happening, especially in the realm of housing. That's why I'm so happy to have you here. And it seems that more division is being created amongst the already marginalized people.
Yes.
You speak to being Afro-Caribbean and Haitian, and today, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of polarization even within the diaspora of Black people. So with all of that being said, within today's realm, like, what is your kind of advice to stay rooted today? Where do you get your resiliency from to keep going and going in the work that you're doing? What is kind of your advice to our listeners?
I thank you. I believe with every ounce of my being in strategic defiance. That's why I'm a compassionate revolutionary. I believe in challenging the status quo. I believe that anyone who is listening right now, don't let anyone criminalize your voice. One of the things that I remember I used to say it way back when, and because it was learned, but then I stopped and I said, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense to me. When people would say, I'm a voice for the voiceless. I speak for the voiceless. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has a voice. And no one has the right to criminalize that voice. Some folks are whispering and you didn't hear them. Just because you didn't hear them doesn't mean that they don't have a voice. So if you see your community is in need of something, you speak up, you speak out, and you don't dare allow anyone to shortchange that voice. For me, I believe in giving people the hard truths. That's why I come from a long line, not a long line, but I come from a line of predecessors at Community Progress who did amazing work, in the past 15 years. I mean, leading up to the 15 years, but I come from lived experience. I'm the only one that provides that lived experience. And I know all too well what it means when I don't speak up. And so I don't need to be at your table. I'll make a box my table, but you're going to hear me. And when you, and be strategic with your voice, because if I'm speaking to my fellow community members and I'm only keeping it within ourselves, that becomes a complaint. That's just us talking back and forth, right? We're just going back and forth. We are, oh, woe is me. That's that woe is me mindset, right? But once you know the true power of your voice, I urge people to look at how legislation impacts almost everything. But legislation without your voice allows anarchy to take place. So keep fighting, keep being loud, keep being strategically defiant, and join me in being a thorn on society's side. I'm always looking for somebody to add to my army. So.
Yes, thank you so much. I like that. A thorn on society's side.
Yes.
That's a great way of thinking of oneself. Lastly, thank you so much for being on All Power to the Developing. It's been an amazing conversation. Lastly, for people that want to stay in touch with your work, people that want to stay in touch with you, learn about what you're doing, learn about where you're going, your next appearances, your future book that's coming out, how could people stay in contact with you, or how could people reach you?
Yes, yes, yes. I do want to throw out there, hopefully people can make it. We have a conference that is happening in Detroit, September 8th through 9th, and it's the National Land Bank Network Summit. Registration is happening really fast. We hope to close registration by August 29th. And there's a possibility that we'll have some room left at the door, but I don't want to lean on that because we might already sell out. But anybody, if you're interested in community revitalization, in reclaiming your property, your neighborhood, excuse me, in just making a difference, please come if you can to the National Land Bank Network Summit in Detroit. The other thing is, if you are a grassroots leader from a marginalized community, or if you are a local policymaker who's interested in beautifying your neighborhood through the arts and culture, I would definitely want you all to please go to our website, the communityprogress.org. That's communityprogress.org. And you'll see a lot of topics that we cover. But if you're looking for straight arts and culture things, we have several creative placemaking publications. And we also have an online resource center where you can see several, Des, you asked about different examples. I mean, you'll see a list and gamut of pages of different places where the community got together and just transformed vacant lots. And I can be reached anytime via email at kguillaume@communityprogress.org. That's it.
Yes, and we will put all of that in the description section for you so you can have it at your will. This has been a great episode of All Power to the Developing. This is your host, once again, Desiree Wandin, Des for short. If you love the podcast, and yes, I know you do love the podcast, write to us at podcast@eastsideinstitute.org. I repeat, that is podcast@eastsideinstitute.org. Write to us. Let us know what you loved about the episode, and we would love to read it at the end of a future episode. We would love your support. If you could like, comment, and subscribe on the platform of your choice, we would appreciate that. Also, we have some fun things coming up in the future, performing the world coming up in the future. So definitely be on the look for that. Once again, this is All Power to the Developing, and you enjoy. Peace. All Power to the Developing was made possible in part by Growing Social Therapeutics, the Baylor Wolf Fund.